District 5, she had a thank you event that was brought to Isaac and Holmes residents. And NYCHA got wind of that she wanted to do it in the courtyard, and they reached out to her. And they said she couldn't do it because she didn't, ask for permission and blah, blah, blah. So with that said, we did it right on 93rd and 1st, and it was really good. And what it did was open the doors to her potential constituents that live across the street and in the area, because it was really for us. So they were able to come over and meet her. So
that's great.
Look, NYCHA always do something negative that worked out positive. Friday, shout out to the Rutledge family. My family, I lost a first cousin. And we also lost cousin Dot. They were having her, Ferguson, they were having her service, one of her services, and when came about my cousin Ricky. So, the families, mourning and stuff like that. But we will get through that. Saturday was yesterday. I attended and covered an event that Eddie Gibbs hosted. It was a community unity event, and that was in Jefferson Park. And it was on 112th and 1st. And it was a really good event. A lot of the elected officials were there. Some of them that have gotten reelected or going into a different, Gail Brewer was there, going into a different position.
Right.
Eric Adams was there too. He stopped by. But other than that, so it was pretty good. And Alvin Bragg was there too. So I went live. I did go live on IG for our One NYCHA page to cover a little bit of that. And today makes day 411 for us that do the Black Lives Matter visual Carl Schutz Park.
Amazing.
And shout out to the current organizers that helped keep it going. And that was basically my week. It was a whole lot I didn't say, but so Stan.
I know how you do it all, Saundrea.
Yeah,
how do you
the grace of God.
Yeah, what's up, Stan? Well, my week was busy. Maybe not as busy as Saundrea's, but we have a real big issue in Queensbridge, the largest housing development in the entire country.
Yes.
Doesn't have a resident council president, but they're going to have an election. And they're trying to tell folks, this is basically voter suppression. They wanted initially to have people vote online. And so big shout out to Calvin Maloney and Ernie. They began calling NYCHA and kind of protesting that because you're not giving people a real chance to vote. So now it's been changed where now they could vote for a 4-hour period in person. So we were able to affect some change, but it's still not what it should be. It should be a couple of days that people could vote. How can we do this in New York City, have an election for all of this, and people could vote for several times, vote early and do all this kind of stuff. But then when it comes to NYCHA, you're trying to suppress their vote.
The biggest development.
So it's really a shame, the way they treat NYCHA residents, and so we're gonna fight that. And we do have a candidate running. We can't support or endorse, but there's somebody running that we're gonna hopefully will win, and it's definitely not for the privatization of NYCHA, so that's great. And also we're gonna have a meeting in Ravenswood, another situation with the resident council president there. I met with some residents just to kind of hand out some flyers, and she comes down to the courtyard to see what we're doing, and so. Why? I guess the question becomes, we as an organizer, we're not against necessarily resident council presidents.
Right.
But if you're not giving the information to the residents, then we have to give the information.
That's a problem.
That's what we're obligated to do.
That's one of the problems.
And many of them are really against that, and so the question becomes, why are you against it? So I know we spoke on another show about maybe some of their motives, some of that stuff will come out, but it is amazing to me, whose side are you really on? Are you fighting for the residents or are you fighting for something else? So we're going to have that meeting on Tuesday in Ravenswood, and she's going to come, and the whole board came downstairs, so I'm like, first of all, how'd you find out that I'm meeting with residents, number one? And number two, why would you just come in there and crash our little meeting, so to speak? So we're going to see what their real agenda is. We're going to bring the information to the residents that, once again, the blueprint is not good for none of us. It's not what we want.
Right.
We want public housing to remain public.
That's right.
We don't want no privatization whatsoever. And if you're a resident council president supporting that, well, we got to move you out the way. We got to do what we have to do to get the word out. So we have that meeting, and we're going to keep this fight going.
Right.
And as an independent, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I ran for office for Queensborough president. I am going to be running again as an independent, so I'm excited. We have someone on the show today who's not a Democrat, who's not a Republican. Malcolm X sold us way back in the day. They all have sold us out. So we're going to hear a message today from someone who's not part of the Democratic machine, the Republican machine, or none of the nonsense that we usually get in politics today, which is why we get the elected officials that we get. So I'm gonna be quiet, and we're gonna turn the show over.
Well,
so I guess
let me
just acknowledge the chat room real quick.
Okay.
And let's show that video. Too.
In the chat room, here's what we got going on. Khalil Burton says, "Happy Sunday, my beautiful people."
Hey.
Yes.
Gary says it's voter suppression, no doubt. Yes, it's very sad. That's Emily Johnson. Emily also says,
"Thank you, Emily."
Residents never get the information to help them make decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
No rad. And I want to say this because what we have to understand is people are getting limited information, or they're seeing videos that go out and stuff like that are pro blueprint or pro rad. But you'd really need to, instead of taking that video at face value, you really need to investigate what they're actually talking about so that you understand. I'm seeing videos of residents going, "Oh, rad is great, and this is what they did for my apartment," and so on and so forth. But then you have other videos of residents going, "Rad is great," and then a year later, like, "Oh, rad is terrible. Look at what happened to me.
Look what happened to me.
Look at what happened to me." So, don't just take it at face value when you see those videos, and the fact that I know we're always screaming rad is bad and no blueprint, and we scream it every week on this show, but I also know y'all are getting other information and input, right? So you gotta do the research,
of course,
to really understand it, and I can't instill that in you guys enough. Like, you gotta do the research to really know what this thing is about, and we're not just screaming lunatics going, rad is bad. There's a reason why we're saying this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've seen it go bad already.
Yeah.
We've seen the blueprint go bad already.
Ocean Bay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We've
The blueprint
seen it.
it's not out yet, but
But it's read and we understand it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That the end result of that is bad. Privatization is bad. I saw a map the other day, and I couldn't believe how many buildings in Manhattan are already privatized.
Yeah, we lost almost a third, I believe.
Yeah. There's a building in Jefferson Houses too that was done.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'll pull up the address. But I
So
just want to say shout out to Emily Johnson, because the reason we have our guest today is she let me know about you. So how awesome is that? Yeah.
Emily, thank you. Sorry, I have to leave. And now, we turn the show over to our special guest.
Okay. When we going to do that video?
Oh, I'll play it right now.
Do you mind?
No, please,
okay.
go ahead.
So,
Yeah, play a video.
let's go to the video first.
Go to the videotape.
Please. And then you can talk.
I bet.
To please welcome Dr. Raja Flores to the podium.
Come on. Bring them out, bring them out. Hey. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Hey. Bring them out, bring them out. VIP coming live from the VIP. Heard the nightlife, lost life, what I need. Most feds in the state wanna see by me. The whole city got pissed. Heard he got three. The other got it.
My name is Roger Flores. I'm a thoracic surgeon practicing in East Harlem. And let me tell you what I have seen. I have cared for thousands of New Yorkers from every borough. I have seen life through their eyes. I have had to remove half of people's lungs because of mold contamination in their public housing. I have had to remove other body parts as well, like ribs, from cancers, from asbestos, and from secondhand smoke. I have watched these same innocent people come into my office with their children running around on the floor who are mentally challenged.
To please welcome Dr. Raja Flores to the podium.
Come on. Bring them out, bring them out. Hey. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Hey.
It's so hot, I had to play it again.
VIP coming live from the VIP. Heard the nightlife, lost life, what I need. Most feds in the state wanna see by me. The whole city got pissed. Heard he got three. The other got it.
My name is Roger Flores. I'm a thoracic surgeon practicing in East Harlem. And let me tell you what I have seen. I have cared for thousands of New Yorkers from every borough. I have seen life through their eyes. I have had to remove half of people's lungs because of mold contamination in their public housing. I have had to remove other body parts as well, like ribs, from cancers, from asbestos, and from secondhand smoke. I have watched these same innocent people come into my office with their children running around on the floor who are mentally challenged because of lead contamination. Children who have missed months and months of school because of asthma, triggered by an unhealthy home. These are good people who are the victims of bad policy. To prevent these problems, you don't need the knife of a surgeon. You need the pen of a mayor. And that's why I am running for mayor of New York City.
Very impressive.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, let's go to the man of the hour.
Yes,
Word up. Let's turn over to Raj. He has a lot to talk about. Let's go. And I like what you're talking about. That video was all right.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was hype. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself to our viewership, please.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be here with you guys. Basically, I was born and raised in this city. I've been in medicine for 33 years. And for the past 10 years, I've been working in East Harlem, and I've seen a lot of things. And finally, in the past several years, I've put it together as to why I've been seeing things now that I haven't seen before. And a lot of it has to do with the high density of NYCHA in East Harlem.
Right.
Wow.
So what are some of the things that you're seeing coming to your table? What do you
So it's
and first of all, let's explain what you do exactly, right? Because not everybody understands what I understand totally.
I don't understand.
A thoracic surgeon, what is it exactly that you do?
So I'm a chest surgeon, a thoracic surgeon. Basically, I operate in the chest, in the rib cages. I take out a lot of lung cancer, mesothelioma, which is the cancer you get from asbestos, esophageal cancer, and mediastinal tumors, which are tumors basically around the heart.
Almost down the center.
In the center of it, exactly. And that's basically what I do.
Wow.
Okay, all right. So in these cases, what are you seeing in terms of, or how does this correlate with the residents in NYCHA? Let's take lungs, for instance. Let's go. What are we looking at?
So the sad part of it is that for the past decade, I've had to remove. So 10 years before I got to East Harlem, I was operating at Sloan Kettering.
Wow.
And it was a different population. You know, it's over on 68th Street and York Avenue, and I'm seeing a lot of elective cases with cancer, et cetera. And then when I got to East Harlem, I started seeing more and more cases from mold contamination in their homes. So what happens is that you inhale the mold and you develop this fungus in your lung. The medical term is called an aspergilloma, which is basically a fungal ball.
Wow.
And I didn't start putting it together that this was something connected to NYCHA. Then for the past couple of years, I would talk to people and, Mrs. So-and-so, how you doing, this and that. And then I found out, oh, wow, she lives in Jefferson.
Wow.
Oh, wow, she lives in Johnson. She lives in Wagner,
Wow.
East River. And then I said, my God, is there something with what's going on in their homes?
Where's the correlation?
Right.
Yeah.
So I went to a number of their homes. So I'd go to their house and I'd look around. And I'd see in the bathrooms this black stuff that's on the ceiling. And I realized, my God, there's mold in the house.
Right.
And, let's say if you're a little older, you have a little diabetes, that predisposes you to getting that mold in your lungs. And sometimes it can get so bad where I have to remove half of somebody's lung.
Wow.
And it's sad that I even see young people, 35 years old, who have these things called granulomas, multiple little dots in their lungs, and they've been living in NYCHA their whole life. Even a buddy of mine who grew up in the Fulton Projects, he's like, yo, Raj, once I left and I moved out, my breathing got better.
Wow.
So I started putting it together, and this is my experience since I've been in East Harlem.
Wow.
Wow. So you're saying actually
amazing.
that people's apartments are literally killing them. I know we say that on
Yeah.
the show, but now from a doctor's perspective,
Of course.
you're confirming
Yeah.
that the apartments are killing people.
Exactly. That's what I see. And it's not just the fungus issue. It's the lead issue.
Right.
Lead is completely underreported. You know, they don't want you to know how much is in there. Asbestos as
Yeah.
well. Other things that trigger asthma. You know, people are like, well, you don't die of asthma. But people do die of asthma.
Of course.
More importantly, not only are these kids exposed to lead, which affects their mental capacity, but when they miss 6 months of school out of the year because they have severe asthma, that's hitting our community harder,
Right.
because we're losing brain power.
Right.
And so it's health on so many levels, life and death, quality of life, intelligence, all of this because of an unhealthy home.
Right. Can you speak about the ramifications? I know we always hear about lead poisoning with children, but also adults can get it, right? Because they're living in a household as well. Have you ran into any cases, or do you know any cases about adults being poisoned and lead in public housing?
Honestly, I haven't had much of experience with adults, but
Okay.
I bet you many adults who grew up in NYCHA and you
Right.
see that they are mentally challenged, you look back, it could quite possibly
Yeah.
be that they were
Wow.
exposed to lead.
Right.
And what I do notice is that many of the essential workers, like half of them in my hospital, they live in NYCHA, and they come to me and they talk to me about their kids. My kid had a lead level of 8, of 9, of 5. Oh, but they said it's okay. It's just 5. There is no level of lead that is okay.
That's right.
Not one. And these are the people that when COVID hit, kept coming to the hospital, kept taking care of New Yorkers. They were
Right.
the NYCHA people. They were the people.
Essential workers, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Who live in this city, who carried us when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And yet, this is how we're going to treat them? You tell me what politician is going to live under those circumstances?
Exactly.
Not one.
No,
But
not
they
at all.
expect the community to live like that, the community that's actually taking care of New York City.
Right.
And not running off when COVID hit.
Wow.
Wow.
So have you seen, let's talk in terms of cancer. Have you seen a lot of NYCHA residents that have, ended up having cancer?
Yes, there are a number that have cancer. It's very difficult, though, to make that scientific connection. You got to realize cigarettes cause lung cancer, and 50 years there was a whole campaign against it, where you even had doctors that were advertising smoking cigarettes,
Right.
etc. So it's very difficult to make that connection. It took 50 years with cigarettes. So based on my own individual observations, I do see it from secondhand smoke, etc., from asbestos, things like that, but I can't prove it. But I cannot discount my own personal observations of what I see with these human beings walking into my office. They're not just statistics that I'm running an analysis on
right.
to
Right.
prove something. I'm seeing Mrs. So-and-so, Mrs. Gonzalez,
Right.
Mrs. Smith coming in.
Jones.
Exactly.
So, who's at fault?
Well, I got to tell you, it's the government.
Okay.
100% I lay this on the government.
Okay.
New York State did a study in 2018. Governor Cuomo, the Department of Health of New York State, they did a study looking at the health effects in NYCHA. And they found that 83% of NYCHA homes had a severe health hazard. 83%. That's more than 4 out
Yeah.
of 5 homes.
Yeah.
That was in 2018 that study came out. How much money did the state give New York last year for NYCHA?
Not much.
The big donut. Nothing. So they know what's going on. My only conclusion, they just don't care.
Yeah. So they're literally
83%.
killing us.
That's
killing us slowly.
insane. That's
killing us
insane.
slowly.
Well, what you got going on here, right? Is you have a multiple level assault on the people, right? And now this has just been brought to light today, right? I've thought about it, but now you're confirming. You're saying, listen, they're killing you in terms of your health, right? Leaving you in these conditions. And then you have all the other assaults that are happening that we report all the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? With them trying to get them out of their apartments, with them doing substandard contracting work,
Right.
making them uncomfortable. This is a multi-level assault on the residents.
And it wears you down. I have I won't say her name, but we have one of our residents who was a leader. It's sort of stepping back now. Because I think the frustration of the fight, of constantly having to fight and maybe not seeing the results, you know, and it just wears you down mentally, physically, and this is a great leader. And she said, I got to take a break because it's just too much.
Right.
So I encourage everybody, don't give up the fight. But I guess we got to see just how severe this fight really is.
I mean,
So
Callie Lou in the chat room, she says, I got focal erosion because of vermin. She
Kim
also,
Tyree.
yep, that's Kim. And she also
Jefferson
said
houses.
alopecia.
Alopecia. Yeah.
Alopecia?
She thinks she got it from there.
And alopecia is what?
When your hair
Missing
falls
it,
out.
yes.
When your hair falls out.
Hair's beginning to fall out.
Yeah, so that's a disease of the skin, but basically it's where your body reacts against itself. It's antibodies. And these autoimmune processes like sarcoidosis, stuff like that, is from being exposed to stuff like this. You develop autoimmune diseases. So there's a whole slew of diseases out there that are happening that we probably will not be able to make the connection.
Right.
But it's the obvious things like the fungus and lung cancer, stuff like that. The lead poisoning, that should be enough.
Right,
What
right.
else do we need?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me ask you this, Doc. I at one time lived in Holmes Towers for about 23 years, and now I'm in Isaacs. So my question is, when I was in Holmes, they changed our bathrooms around. So they took out our ceramic tub. They broke the walls and put those bath fitters in. Was asbestos there? Possibly.
I think there's a good chance of it.
Because they did the work.
But they're not going to look for it.
Right.
Why? Because when you find it, it costs a lot of money to abate it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they want to sweep it under the rug. The tiles, the insulation around the pipes, that all is full of asbestos. And we know there's
Right.
asbestos all through
And the floors too,
We
yeah.
know that.
Right.
But they just don't want to identify because it costs money. And you know what? They just don't care. They're like, all right, these are NYCHA people. They don't vote. They don't do this.
Right.
They don't do
They're
that.
so- yeah.
Right.
And so they just don't care.
But by doing that and giving us those bath fitters, if you're exposing people to something hazardous to their health, why would you do that? Because in Isaacs, and I guess there's different developments, because Isaacs, when I moved into Isaacs, I have the old tub and I have the regular tiles. So, I know everything. People think, oh, it's new, it's great. But if it's going to expose, us to the dangers, because also we see signs sometimes, asbestos abatement in the lobbies and stuff, and they're doing work. But yet and still, they're all in the hazmats or whatever working. But we come into the building, this is pre-COVID still.
Right.
We come in the building, we're not told to mask up or anything.
Oh yeah, it's typical. It's typical. It reminds me of a song growing up, "All About Money Ain't a Damn
Thing
Thing."
funny.
There you go. The message from Melly Mel.
Wow, wow.
And
wow.
just to put a dollar amount on the abatement and how expensive it can be, I got an abatement done in a school in Newark. One room was $400,000.
One room.
One room. One room. It was the band room because we're building a studio there, and they had asbestos was present. It was $400,000 for one room.
Wow.
So it's a very expensive process.
Yeah, wow.
Wow. I guess that's why they're ignoring it. I guess our lives don't matter
Yep.
enough,
yeah.
for them to
And
do
George Watkins and Georgia, Watkins
Hey.
says
We've been helping her.
you will have their official come in and use, I guess, a equipment, then give you a paper stated that there's nothing there. Okay, so she'll say like an official will come in that has their equipment that does this, and then they go, well, there's nothing happening.
Right.
Like there's nothing going on. Okay.
Well,
That's what she said.
let's shift gears a little bit, but we're going to still stay in the health
'cause
aspect for
so
public
critical.
housing, but still, as you are a mayoral candidate, so let's shift a little bit. What's your thoughts on public safety? If you was the mayor, how would you run the police department? Yeah, how would that look?
So that's a difficult topic. I was born and raised in this city. I grew up in the 70s when it was crazy. And
Yeah.
and it's hard for me to say defund the police.
Okay.
I remember way back when the Young Lords were fighting in the Carver housing projects for that they helped the tenants go on a rent strike because there weren't enough cops. So you got to remember those days. And, but then you have the flip side. We don't need to see another Central Park jogger case where 5 innocent kids go to jail who were DNA proven innocent.
Right.
There has to be a balance. When emotions are getting so high, they make you choose a side. And you've got to sit down and think with a clear head. What's in the best interest of our communities? And I got to tell you, when I was a kid, I remember the housing cops being there. The housing cops.
That's right. That's what I grew up with. That's right.
They knew our names. When they saw us.
Terry. We had one named Terry, yeah.
Maynard and Lafayette. Go ahead.
I mean, they'd come in, they knew when we were playing, blackjack and spades in the hallways and stuff. All right, Raj, get out of here. You're not supposed to be here, this or that. Now, when Giuliani put the housing cops with the regular cops,
the merger,
that lost the community aspect.
Absolutely.
So they come in and, the cops are not as familiar.
They don't know us.
They're not as familiar with the residents.
It is called the us and them syndrome.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right. They don't know anybody in the community, and we don't know them.
That's right.
So henceforth,
right.
There's
and they have what's the NCOs now? They come out, but
there's
they
no
flip
personal.
them around
There's no personal attachment.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need. I mean, I take care of both the community, and I'm actually an NYPD surgeon.
Right.
So I actually take care of a lot of cops. And many of the cops that I take care of actually live in the area. I mean, many are Black and Hispanic cops, and I have a huge amount of respect for them. They put their lives on the line. But there has been a situation that's created, like Rock was saying, of an us versus them now. And we've got to figure out a way to move beyond that.
Are you the chief surgeon?
I'm the chairman of my department in my hospital. I always have to state
I mean,
that.
for NYPD, are you their chief surgeon?
No, I'm just an honorary police surgeon.
Okay.
I just take care of them. I take care of a lot of people who are 9/11 cops, firemen, first responders.
I'm thinking that you're at Metropolitan.
I'm at Mount Sinai.
Mount Sinai.
But I just have to state my views are my views and not those of Mount Sinai.
Right,
I just need to state that.
Yeah. No, I asked because I am a former member of NYPD. I supervise payroll, and when I had my gallbladder removed some years ago, the chief surgeon was actually my doctor, but he was also the chief surgeon at that time for NYPD.
Kleiman?
I don't remember. This was some years ago. I can't even think of the name. But so as you said, and there's a lot of understanding of what you're saying, but then here's the activist in me. So when we say defund, for me, we're talking about reallocating funding, because before families, we're trying to get people out of poverty, right? We see what the President Biden is trying to do, but we're also trying to create opportunities for people to be able to live and have fun. And I also was a payroll supervisor, so I seen the waste. So I do know they can, some money can be reallocated. And I think when people say defund, and like I said, I'm an activist, I think they need to explain it. You know what I mean? And it's not so broad, because we do want public safety. That's for sure. But we want to feel safe even with the cops, because you have, as a Black person, you have a predator because of close proximity crimes, right? People in your neighborhood. But then you also have the possibility of being a male Black or female Black being abused by the police. So how do we stop that? How do we remove them under the cloak of immunity? Because we know qualified immunity has been abolished for them, but they're still doing things that are unjust. And as the mayor, you would have the hold over the police department. You would be picking your police commissioner, you know what I mean? And will you be hearing from like community activists like myself and others that want to have a seat at the table to talk about what public safety would look like? Are you open to things like that?
You have to have an open discussion. I mean, as I'm thinking about not only running, but thinking about governing, I already know my first deputy mayor would be in charge of safety. His name is Manuel Gomez.
Okay. That's somebody picked.
He's a crime expert. He was a Marine. He was an NYPD, FBI, and anti-terrorism as well. And he is someone that understands all the issues. The problem I have with the rhetoric behind defund the police is it creates, in my opinion, a bad environment for cops. It makes it seem like they are 100% the enemy, and I don't believe that. I do think that there are ways to reallocate funds.
Okay.
That not necessarily from the NYPD, but there's a lot of waste, a lot of corruption in the budget of the New York City mayor. And when I hear defund the police, I think it's just basically a derogatory term for the cops. Now, in my solutions for the problems with NYCHA, I need the cops involved. I need to restore the housing police, because part of my solution for NYCHA, let's say you go to let's take Queensbridge, or when you walk into Queensbridge, what do you see when you're walking through the grounds of Queensbridge on the first floor? What do you see?
Well, I'm in Queensbridge all the time. You see community, but you also, I'll be honest, there is a strong police presence in Queensbridge, and I think that's why some of the young folks, I'll give you an example. Brother Sugar Ray has a cipher where kids come together and they just rap.
Right.
You know, in Queensbridge.
Talk about that.
And then the cops are coming every Saturday to stop them from just rapping, harassing them. And this is a community event that everyone in the community loves. The kids come out, parents come out. The music is not that loud. There are people playing boom boxes probably as loud as they have the music, but the cops are coming in there and they're harassing them. And they're just sitting there, oftentimes with the lights blaring. And so they're feeling it, they're feeling like they're being terrorized.
Actually, let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
What do you not see?
Police.
Well, he does see police. No, he does see it.
No, you see police harassment.
No, but what I think the solution, like you did say, back when I was in housing, we did have housing police. So it was a different type of thing. They wasn't sitting there with their lights flashing. They was not coming to us.
They weren't
and
intimidating.
approaching us and intimidating.
Right.
It was more like they knew us. Like you said earlier, they knew us, we knew them,
Right.
and it was a whole different
And you
environment.
would not let nothing happen to that
Right,
officer.
right.
That officer was protected
Right.
in your development.
They were part of it. So
Right.
that, I think, would be great. But what we see now is they feel harassed. They feel like they're in an occupied state or something like that.
Go ahead, Raj.
But the thing that I was trying to get at is, right, we got to fix NYCHA. And how do we need it? We need money. Where are we going to get that money from? First of all, you have to have a safe community. And then what I meant to get at is when you look at the first floor of most
The lobbies.
houses, the lobbies, there's no businesses. When you go into other people's communities, you go into condos, you've got stores, dry cleaner, food, this or that. NYCHA people buy milk, buy eggs.
Yeah.
Why are they going to let that money go out of the community and give it to somebody else? We need NYCHA business, because you can give us $40 billion to take care of NYCHA and to fix the roofs and to do all of that. But how are you going to keep it funded? How are you going to keep it going? And that's why you need to look at NYCHA you got NYCHA safety. I've got a 4-point plan for it. NYCHA safety, NYCHA business, NYCHA education, and NYCHA home ownership, which has to do with community land trusts.
Okay.
But the business part is the most important. You have got to teach NYCHA residents the finances and how to run a business and how to run an apartment, how to run a building complex, so they can take care of themselves. If we can get groceries on the first floor, there's only one that I'm really aware of, the Wrangell houses on like 150, right off the Harlem River, where they have a pharmacist, they have a store. That's what we need for NYCHA. NYCHA people spend money. Why not keep it in the
There's
community?
a mixed bag of
Right.
incomes there, yeah.
Keep it in the community so that they can finance the repairs of their homes, so that you're not relying on government money to maintain it. You know, when you look at condos on 3rd Avenue up and down, you know, in the city, you've got everything on the first floor. I mean, there's one building that has a Mexican restaurant, a dry cleaner, a sun tanning place, and a grocery store. That gives money to the building that houses them. NYCHA, you walk into every NYCHA complex, it's desolate. So we've got to start thinking along those lines. Business needs to stay in the community because the community pays money, but it pays money out of its community.
Right.
Keep it in the community and
Right.
take care of yourself.
So what's your take on privatization? Because as a new mayor, right, if you become mayor, some of the developments that are already slated, they may be happening, you know, the construction and so forth will be coming forth in 2022. How do you feel about privatization?
You got to scrap all of that. Get rid of
Okay.
RAD, get rid of PAC, get rid of the blueprint.
Okay.
All that is based on making a profit.
Right.
When you try to make a profit in NYCHA, people get evicted.
Mm-hmm.
People
Absolutely.
will
Okay.
suffer from it. So you've got to get rid of all that and accept the fact that right now, NYCHA is not going to be a moneymaker. Right now, for real estate companies from the outside looking in, you know how much real estate is there in NYCHA? Three times the
right.
size of Central Park.
Right.
3 times the size. So the real estate people, their eyes are
course.
bulging with dollar
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? But you've got to realize that there are certain things in economics that just are not going to make money, like sanitation. Why is it that New York City's in charge of sanitation? Because it's not a moneymaker. The government's got to take care of that.
Right.
So you've got to realize that NYCHA is not a moneymaker. We've got 500,000 people living in NYCHA. It's a ticking time bomb in New York City. And if it's not the number one priority for the mayoral candidate that comes in now, you think you've got a problem with 80,000 homeless? Wait till you got 500,000 sick,
Right.
sick people who are losing their homes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that has got to be the number one priority. I understand the crime. I understand the other issues. NYCHA has got to be the number one issue of the next mayoral
Okay.
candidate coming in here.
That's
So
fair.
do you think that your candidates, the people that you're running against, are they prioritizing NYCHA? Speaking of Eric and Sliwa, what do you think? How do you differ yourself from them? And are they prioritizing NYCHA like they should?
They mention it because they have to. When you looked at the Democratic debates, first of all, I blame the media. The media can make an innocent man guilty and a guilty man innocent.
Yeah.
So if they can bring out the injustices that are going on in NYCHA, it will get attention. So I blame the media. The media is not doing anything. The government's not doing anything. And the candidates basically just want to get elected. They are not trying to do something to actually do some good for the community. People vote for mayor, whether it's Republican or Democrat, nothing happens. Look at yourself. Nothing has changed. This time, you can actually do something. If you vote for someone that has NYCHA as their number one priority, yeah, you may not, your rhetoric or whatever, the culture wars that you're fighting may not, be on your side, but you can actually do something with helping 500,000 of your brothers and sisters that took care of you when COVID was hitting us hard. You can take care of those people. We have an opportunity for that. And all these politicians want to do is just get elected.
Yeah.
It's interesting. As a doctor, a lot of people ask me, oh man, what are you doing now? You want to be a politician? I'm like, no, I don't want to be a politician. I want to help people. And
Right.
this is how I can see to help a large number of people. No, I don't want to be a politician, but how else are you going to help all these people? Believe me, I love operating. I got a great job. I make a lot of money. I would be taking a huge pay cut.
Wow.
Wow.
That's something.
What's your take on education? Are you for some people? Some people don't like charter schools. Some people love charter schools. Are you for charter schools? Are you okay with that? And how do we balance how people are educated on, let's say, hypothetically, the Upper East Side and Harlem? Like, there's a difference. There's a difference in hiring of the teachers. There's a difference in curriculum and so forth. How do we, you as the mayor, if you become the mayor, see that every child, student is getting a viable, great education?
So that's a good question. I think you got to have variety. You can't, there's not one size that fits all. And, my education, I grew up poor. My mom was just happy I wasn't a drug dealer. And how did I end up making it through? It was by luck. And you know what? I need to make sure that our kids are becoming successful by design. And how do you do that? Right? Yes, you've got to have a variety of things. Public school, charter school, etc.
Okay.
You got to make sure, you have this universal pre-K. To me, how are you going to affect education with universal pre-K when the kid's been exposed to lead? So housing has to come first. When the kid misses school because of asthma. So yes, universal pre-K is okay, but you got to make sure that they're not exposed to lead.
Environment.
But the single most important thing for education are parents. And I have a little 3-step program that I would try and teach New York City parents when they are pregnant with their first kid. Number one, there's 1,000 most commonly used words in the English language. That's it. There are these flashcards. You teach these kids. By the time they're 2 or 3, they have those 1,000 words in their brain. They'll be able to do anything. Nice. They can look at the internet. They will have that language. I didn't have that, and I had a difficult time with that. The next thing is math. There's this program called Kumon. Okay. Kumon is a stepwise program that was started in Japan. And it is something that every community needs to have their kids involved in right from the beginning. And when you look at COVID and the vaccination, all the misinformation out there, the next thing we've got to teach our children are about science. And there's 100 videos, Bill Nye the Science Guy, that goes through everything as far as science is concerned, and it gives you this foundation. So those 3 things kids can do from the time they come out of the womb till the time they hit pre-K. As long as you make sure they're not exposed to lead, these kids will learn it.
Awesome.
I'm gonna say something very interesting about that because I teach CPR, right? I teach basic life support. I teach ACLS, PALS, all the American Heart Association classes. But to what you said, there's a school downtown that I did a CPR class in. It's in the 70s, but it's a prestigious school, and these kids were like 2nd graders. And their science class and their lab looked like they could create anything. That's all I can say. You know what I mean? It was phenomenal. Like the program was phenomenal, So what you're saying isn't even something that doesn't even exist. It just doesn't exist for us. Right. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't exist for us. I've seen it. Right. If I can remember, I just remember being very impressed that this is what, 2nd and 3rd graders were doing. And as a matter of fact, here's the deal. I was there to teach the kids CPR.
Wow.
They were in the 3rd grade.
Right. That's incredible.
And you said a prestigious school.
Right. But it was a prestigious school. And the class and the kids that were incredible. But you're right. It ain't there for us.
No, it's not.
And what you realize, the kids in the community, I do a lot of talking to kids in the community, high school, and trying to get them to come to watch me in the hospital and to encourage them to go into medicine. And when you look at these kids, you look at their eyes, they're wide open. They're starving for knowledge.
Right. Yes.
And yet we're missing the opportunity to feed them. Instead, you got 13-year-old kid in the Bronx gets shot because he doesn't know what being a man is. They think a finger is what makes you a man, and that doesn't make you a man. So they need role models, especially our young men. They need role models. And if you can give them these educational tools so that they're good at school, right? When you're playing basketball and you got a good J and you can throw it down backwards, you want to keep playing basketball. So in school, if you know how to figure out that equation or read that passage and you're doing well in school, you want to do it because you're doing well in it. And that's what we got to do. We got to give our kids confidence.
And it is the thing that sparks you, right? It's the thing that sparks you because I wasn't good at math, but I love to read, right? And exposure is key. There are a lot of programs that were cut out of school, like shop. Remember shop class, right? Sure. And you had the wood shop and electric shop, and you had home economics, right? Exposure to things. It was just exposure. I mean, you got a grade in it, but at the end of the day, if you saw something you liked, you went into that.
Exactly.
And one of the shops that I was in, which is prominent right here at this table, was we had a radio station in the 9th grade in my school.
And that encouraged you to do what you're doing now?
Exactly. I went to WABC. I saw Dan Ingram, 77 WABC, and I went in 79, and I saw the radio station. I went, I want to do that. Exposure.
And what you got to realize also, there's some people who aren't good at school. I have family members that dropped out in their 2nd year of high school. But and I remember growing up, we had kids that went to automotive, that went to aviation. You go to a vocational school, it gives you confidence, it gives you pride. It keeps you away from violent crime. A job is the single most important for self-esteem and to keep crime down.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Whether you want to go on one side of the police, defund or refund, it's that's going to make the difference.
You got some stuff going on in the chat room here. I got to acknowledge it real quick. Emily Johnson says, Big Brother program. checking on the kids at home and school, home economics, shop class. I guess that's kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Brick Brother program, as in not the government, but the program for kids who don't have fathers. Brenda Temple says free trade schools for all ages,
Yeah.
license,
Adults, too.
certificate
Yeah.
programs, union jobs, etc.
Yeah.
Opportunity leads to careers, success for all.
Brenda.
Yep, there goes Brenda. Let me see. What? Kim Tyree, because the mayor controls the schools and the budget. That's why we don't have it. And I guess she was talking about where we were speaking about the things that we don't have in schools.
Yeah.
Or in our neighborhoods.
Right,
Yeah.
in our neighborhoods. And we were seeing these things. So the chat room has definitely
Buzzing.
been lit up. And Joseph Selman says, Skiboki for mayor? What is that?
Is that somebody else running?
Does he have a store?
That's probably somebody else. You wasn't even supposed to read that on there.
Oh, you know what? Hey,
You
listen,
wasn't even
dude.
supposed to read that on there.
Oh,
And
listen.
if it's not for our guy,
Hold on, let's be clear. Yo, you can't be trolling.
He can.
You can't troll out. Come on,
he
man.
can troll. You wasn't supposed to read that. So let me ask you this real quick because I know we want to wind up soon. The unhoused. How do we eradicate
Yes.
the homeless crisis?
my question, too.
Because there's a lot of apartments that are vacant in New York City. Also, let's be real, in public housing, resident council presidents, not all, but some of them have apartment as their office. Like, there's people on the street. So how do we, Ben Kalos did an article about all of these apartments in these buildings that are vacant, I guess tax write-offs or whatever. But how do we eradicate the homeless crisis in New York City?
That's a difficult question. If that was an easy fix, people would already be doing it. And I think you have to get input from everybody, from the community, from the homeless people. We got 80,000 homeless now, half of them are kids. You've got to look at, from a medical standpoint, in the emergency room, you've got a lot of mental illness. Well, actually, it's not. Most of the homeless are not mental illness. It's a small part, but it's the part that I think concerns many of the people. They get afraid of someone who's running around the street talking to themselves, etc. They need medical help. We need to have a process when they hit the emergency room because of one thing or another. Sometimes they'll come to the emergency room because they just want a roof over their head for the night. That's when we've got to grab them and make sure they get the services that they need. Another big thing with homeless people is that they've been victims of domestic violence, and they're out there on the street. You've got to realize the majority of homeless people, the reason why they're homeless is just because they can't afford a home.
Right.
So you've got to figure out a way to fix that. And I don't have something that I can say, this is going to get rid of that. No, that's something that I think we have to focus in on. But you got to make sure there's no increase in the homelessness, and that's why you got to make sure you can't privatize NYCHA, because that's going to increase the number of evictions that are going to end up being homeless.
Okay, maybe more affordable housing.
I want to address homelessness real quick. Because there's a misconception, right? Number one, that all homeless people are mentally ill.
No, you can
And
get
that's not
mentally
true.
ill being out there.
Right,
That
exactly.
Right.
But, anyway.
But also, there's a population called the working homeless.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there are people that have jobs,
veterans
Absolutely.
too.
And they are homeless.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All homeless people
waiting for housing.
are not people that don't work. There are people that work and they're homeless and live on the street. So, and you'll see them.
They've been displaced for some reason.
They've been displaced for some reason, and they don't have a place to live. But they go to work every day.
Yeah.
And then
You know
there's
what I'm
one
saying?
aspect of it. The vouchers that they get are not enough
use
to
it.
pay for an apartment. So would you be increasing the vouchers that the homeless folks have so they can actually get an apartment?
I would look at every single avenue. If it's vouchers, if it's, I'd look at anything. Like I said, it's a difficult problem. It is a problem that if they could fix, I assume or I hope they would have fixed it by now. So I think that's going to need
Government doesn't care though. We've seen that.
especially with COVID, when you realize the number of homeless out there is going to affect your economics, your business that's on the street. They should do it because it's the right thing to do. But if you can't twist their arm by telling them to do the right thing, then you got to hit them where their pocket is. And if they see that it's affecting the economics, that may light a fire under their butt.
And so why did you, I mean, I guess we kind of covered it before, but you're running as an independent. And so do you think that independents get treated fairly? I know there's a lot less media coverage, during the primaries, everybody's on the news every minute. Then when the primaries are over, it's hard to get media attention. So running as an independent, is it more challenging? And do you think it's a fair system?
Yeah, there is zero mainstream media coverage of independents. And that is not the way our government is supposed to work. And they should be giving each candidate that has made the ballot an equal amount of time to state their ideas. If anything, let's say, it's a long shot for an independent. If anything, maybe you'll get some good ideas that whoever eventually is elected can run. But it's a rigged game.
Yeah.
And, so you look at, let's take NYCHA, for example. Right, you had a Republican since 92 till 2013 in Gracie Mansion. Right, people say, okay, well, NYCHA screwed up because of Republicans. Guess what? We just had for the past 2 terms a Democrat, a quote unquote progressive Democrat.
Talk about it.
And it has gotten even worse. So I don't want to hear this hypocritical BS in the Democratic Party that we're for poor people, because they're not. They're more in the money game than even the Republicans in this city. When I was growing up, I remember Jimmy Carter was running against Gerald Ford, and I asked my mom, I said, Ma, are we Republicans or Democrats? And she said, sweetie, we're poor. We're Democrats. So I've been given this load of goods since I was a kid. 4 years ago, I left the party to become an independent because I realized it was full of crap. And I think everyone's got to realize both parties are compromised.
Yeah.
And I want to address that because we've been talking about this over the weekend. It seems to be been a recurring theme, right? So I'm going to say it on this show too. Here's the deal, y'all. We don't need to be Democrats. We don't need to be, as minorities, we don't need to be Democrats. We don't need to be Republicans. We don't need to be tribal like that. What we need to be is our own party, right, that gives opportunities to independent candidates and Republicans and Democrats to come see us, right? And then we might vote Republican. We might vote independent. We might vote Democrat based on the ideas,
That's one man, one vote.
But exactly, and what y'all got to understand is we get screwed all the time. They come and they see us and they promise us stuff, and then after that, what happens after the election?
Right.
We don't see them anymore. You have to look at your situation from a linear standpoint, and I think, people have short memories, right? A linear standpoint. Are you any better, now than you were 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, right? 20 years ago. You go back 30 years, you probably were better. You know what I'm saying? Because NYCHA was being taken care of. But look at the last 8 years, look at the last 10 years, and think of all those candidates that came. And
what have you done for me lately?
What have you done for me at all? You know what I'm saying?
And I want to say something that may upset some folks. I know a lot of people voted for Eric Adams. As a black person, I know people are saying we have a black mayor, but sometimes we vote against our own interests, and we put certain things ahead of what should be important. If he's for privatizing NYCHA, and if you live in NYCHA and you voted for Eric Adams, then you voted against your own interests.
He's for privatization.
I'm pretty,
publicly said it.
He's been skirting around the issue, but I know again he's good friends with Donovan Richards. I saw him on a videotape in Ocean Bay when Donovan Richards privatized that development. He was on that tape speaking positively about what was happening. So I can only assume, based on what I saw, since he's been very evasive on the issue, that he's probably for privatizing NYCHA. So if you voted for him and you live in NYCHA, then you voted against your own interests.
We need to find out.
We need to come on the show.
Rachel Holiday,
and
the
talk.
city. Ask him that question, please. She's
we
following.
We need to know because he's been evading me, and I've seen him on a couple of forums. It seems as though when that question came up, he had to leave the forum, a couple of times and sort of evade the question, So I mean, like, what is it? You should be able to come out plainly and clearly. Are you for it or not?
Yeah,
NYCHA residents need to know. And I don't think most of us do know.
I didn't get my
and
answer
many
either.
people in NYCHA, I believe, voted for him. So you voted against your own interests. If you did, if it's for the privatization of NYCHA.
I think you got to realize he's going to be a puppet for the Democrat Party. He used to be a Republican, and he changed his colors for the Democrat Party, and that doesn't come without owing favors.
Right.
And for the black community, the Hispanic community, I think you got to realize skin folk ain't necessarily
Kinfolk.
Folk, that's right.
Ooh,
Say
that's
it.
right.
Say
That's
it.
right.
Right.
Skin folk ain't necessarily kinfolk. You're right.
Skin folk ain't kinfolk. That's right.
Room's on fire, by the way.
the
Brenda
word.
Temple's
That's
like,
the
oh
word.
my God, sellouts. And Kim Tyree says, yes, he wants privatization.
Yep.
And that's him that's her talking about Eric Adams. They agree with the statement, party of the people. Yes, we should have our own thing going on. So that's what you're seeing in the chat room.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I am a registered Republican, but I'm not tribal. Right? I'm not tribal at all. I vote for the idea. I'll vote for an independent. I'll vote for a Democrat. I'll vote for, if I think that your ideas line up with my ideas and my interests, then I'm for that. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think we all need to really get to that point because, once again, neither one of the parties do anything, particularly for NYCHA. You know what I'm saying? I don't live in NYCHA. I've never lived in NYCHA, and you guys know I never professed that I ever have. So when I sit and my interests are very different. You know what I'm saying? But you can advocate and sympathize and empathize for what's right for people. I don't got to live in NYCHA to want to fight for NYCHA.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm fighting for the injustice, right? He's a thoracic surgeon. He doesn't live in NYCHA, right? He's successful. But guess what? He wants to fight for NYCHA. You don't have to live in NYCHA to fight for injustice.
We have a
That's
lot of
going on.
comrades. Yep.
But
that
what you
don't.
got to realize is the city runs on the motor of the people who live in NYCHA. So you got to realize they have cheap rent. What does that mean? That means the businesses, especially the hospitals where I work with a ton of NYCHA people, they don't have to get paid as much because their rent is lower. Now, if you put them out there in the free market and their rent goes up, they have to leave New York. You are paying people who live in NYCHA to take care of your business, take care of the hospital a lot lower because they have access to affordable housing.
Well, we pay 30%, to be clear, 30% of our income. So no matter what our income is, high or low, it's 30%. So, yeah.
Exactly. So let's say you raise the rent of everybody and they lived in private homes, et cetera. Then what happens is then they can't afford to live where they live, which means they can't. So when COVID happened, a lot of people from East Harlem just walked to work. Why? Because they live there. East Harlem's being gentrified beyond belief.
Yeah.
What happens if you privatize NYCHA? Next thing you know, NYCHA goes. All those people who work for $50,000, $40,000 a year, if they got to pay more rent, they can't stay living close to the hospital. They got to leave. Right. So it affects the motor of the city. I don't know if I'm being clear in describing that, but if you take care of NYCHA, it's in the city's best interest.
Of course.
Period.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
I'm not trying to push Catholic guilt.
Hundreds of thousands of essential workers.
Half a million.
However, what you have to realize about that, and here's a counter argument, not a counter argument, but a fact, right? But I just want to say this. Joseph Selman, finally, you said something sensible. Housing is a human right. There you go. Thank you, Joseph, instead of trolling. Now.
No, you didn't. Be nice.
Be nice.
Nah, Joseph, don't come to it. Thank you. What I want to say is, but what's really in the best interest of the city, or how the city sees it, right, is NYCHA property is a very, very valuable property. It's very valuable real estate. All those buildings, all those NYCHA developments that sit on the water, prime real estate,
Absolutely.
right?
Waterfront
And that's how they see it, right? They see it like that. They don't see it as the people are valuable, right? They're looking at the land and they're going, what can we do to make some money? And that's kind of
that's it.
where our problem is. And,
Yeah.
de Blasio, he's been down with the developments from the beginning,
Yeah.
right? And I'll call it because I saw it.
Fetna Park.
And some of y'all saw this happen in real time. Don't y'all remember when he got arrested in front of Long Island College Hospital, which is in Brooklyn, which is waterfront property.
Right,
I used to work there. It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
And he's like, we're not going to close Long Island. We're not going to close Litch. We're gonna fight for Litch. And he gets arrested. And the first thing that happened when he got to office, Litch was closed.
Yeah. Sold us out.
Yeah.
So do y'all
us
really
out.
need more of that? Like, it's happening. Y'all are watching it, and it's like y'all aren't processing it. Like this is what they're doing to you. That's
Yeah.
what the deal is, though.
Can we run the? Oh, before you could ask a question, but before we close, can we run this video again and then have him have closing remarks?
I just want to ask this. So now, are you taking any money from any real estate developers at all in your campaign?
I'm not taking any money from anybody right now.
And that's what I'm
What's your
talking
website?
It's www.rajafloresny.com.
Okay.
And you know, it's tough because I'm fighting for NYCHA and for the people that don't have a lot, and it's tough to ask poor people for money. I
right.
want to ask them for
Right.
money.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, folks, we do gotta invest, in candidates that we think will represent us.
Because matching funds, right?
Right.
Right. $10
Right.
is what? What is it? 90?
Yeah,
Is it
it's
90?
80,
10 to 8?
it's 10 to
10 to 8 or 10 to 9, whatever it is.
8 to 1. 8
yeah,
to 1.
So,
8 to 1.
okay,
8
so
to
8,
1.
what's $10 give
It's
you?
$80.
Okay.
And guys, stop being afraid that you're going to lose, right? Stop being afraid that you're giving your money or donating your money to a candidate that you think, oh, he's not going to win anyway, right? Because now you've just assured that by doing that. And then for some reason, there's a sickness, right? Y'all will give money to the candidate that you think is going to win, but that candidate isn't in your best interest.
That's 100% correct.
Also, invest the way your conscience is.
Yes.
If someone you liking what they're saying, if you have a little faith in the person, you should invest in them.
Absolutely.
You should invest in them.
That's the only way we're
There
going
you
to
go.
win.
Yeah, they said if they can buy some Nikes, they can give $10.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brenda Temple says NYCHA lives matter.
Right. Yeah.
Clean your own grandparents' bed sores.
Right.
Take care of your own kids. Joseph Selman, more sensibility. He says, "What is your position on zoning?" Thank you, Joseph.
That's a good question.
You want to ask that question?
Well, yeah, we can answer that.
Let's find out. Yeah, okay.
Because we have so much overdevelopment in the city, and the rezoning's happening all around. It's totally unfair, and it's causing gentrification and people to be displaced. So what are your thoughts on that?
Anything that will result in the eviction of New Yorkers who have been in their homes for 30 years, 20 years, you can't have that. I know what it's like to be evicted, and from the home I grew up in. And that is the most lonely, isolating, vulnerable feeling that a New Yorker can feel. And you got to make sure anything that has to do with zoning, what's going to happen to the people who are paying $200 a month, who've been there for 40 years, who've raised their kids there. So that's a very important thing, because when the real estate people are looking at these places, they're looking at a spreadsheet. They're looking at numbers.
That's right.
They don't know Miss Gonzalez or Miss Smith.
Right.
They don't see that woman has raised all of her children and she has nowhere else to go. That's her
profit.
community. And so you have to figure that out. It's difficult because what we need to do is make sure that all parts of the economy works. It's not just a free market. There is a part of the economy, we have a mixed economy, where you have to take care of the people that can't take care of themselves, and you're not always going to get a profit out of it. And that's where government needs to step in.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, we're going to play the video again.
Can you not mute us so we could enjoy
you wanna talk about it?
We want to
Okay, you wanna
enjoy
talk
it
about
this
it.
time. We want to,
Start out with a hot beat.
Yeah, we were dancing and everything. Here go the video.
Yeah, here we go. Let the video go.
Ow.
You're still lit.
To please welcome Dr. Raja Flores to the podium.
Yeah. Come on.
Hey!
Woo.
Hit him up. Hit him up.
Come on!
Hit him up.
Yeah.
Go!
Woo. Yeah, we dancing.
Go!
I know you had that in you, Doc. All right. Now we'll listen.
My name is Roger Flores. I'm a thoracic surgeon practicing in East Harlem. And let me tell you what I have seen. I have cared for thousands of New Yorkers from every borough. I have seen life through their eyes. I have had to remove half of people's lungs because of mold contamination in their public housing. I have had to remove other body parts as well, like ribs, from cancers, from asbestos, and from secondhand smoke. I have watched these same innocent people come into my office with their children running around on the floor who are mentally challenged because of lead contamination. children who have missed months and months of school because of asthma, triggered by an unhealthy home. These are good people who are the victims of bad policy. To prevent these problems, you don't need the knife of a surgeon.
Well,
You need the pen of a mayor. And that's why I am running for mayor of New York City.
woo, awesome.
Very good, very good.
Hit him up, hit him up.
Yeah, old school, old school.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I love the music in that commercial.
Yeah,
Right.
right. When I had the conversation, I said, I don't want them to see it. I told him that. I said, I don't want the co-host to see it. So when Rock uploaded it, I was like, Rock, please don't watch or listen to it. And he said, I'm not listening. I'm just making sure it's ready. So
Yeah,
I wanted
was-
just to, that was
Call me by
that was
surprise.
That was
Because
that was
you had the other one was, I'm coming out. Yeah. Nah, doc, nah.
Yeah, you got some rough music right there,
That's
buddy. I gotta tell
That's
you.
lit. But
Word.
no, so thank you for coming on, and
Yeah.
this was a
How do
powerful
folks
show.
donate to your campaign?
Excuse me?
How do people donate to your campaign?
Give your website.
So if
again.
you go to my website, www.rajafloresny.com, or if you're having trouble, just Google my name. I think it comes up.
Okay.
Raja, R-A-J-A, Flores, F-L-O-R-E-S.
Well, it has been a
Yeah.
pleasure talking to you.
Yes.
And I'm a paramedic, actually. You know, by I don't know by trade. I don't know what you want to call it. That just
Please call
it was kind of an
911.
accident. I don't know. Became a paramedic, but
He's seen the room too. So he's seen the room.
Oh, you
He
saw
was
the
like,
room?
Yeah, he came in the room.
Yeah,
we
saw all the mannequins and stuff
Yeah,
around.
Yeah, he's like, yeah.
It's actually a school. It's actually, and we do
Yeah.
LPN classes there and everything. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in
Yeah,
to
thank you.
the One Night Show.
We want to thank you. Yes.
And we want to thank you guys for the growth. You know, and the show has been growing,
Yes.
and you guys are sharing, and we're feeling that energy.
Yeah.
You know, in recent times, as I've gone out into the community and gone to a couple of developments, you know, people have recognized me. You know, I went to my doctor the other day. You know, my primary and the tech, the EKG tech.
Sure.
She comes in the room and she goes, I know you. I was like, well, you know me. She says, you do that show on Sundays, the One Night Show.
Night. y'all.
Yeah.
I live in NYCHA.
Awesome.
I live in NYCHA. And then of course, right, I'm there to get an EKG, and then she starts to tell me about the problems in her apartment. She's like, and in my apartment, I have. And I was like, okay, well, listen, you know, just here's my number. Give me a call.
Right.
I'm not an activist, but I sit next to two very active activists.
Organized and activists.
You know, so that was the deal. But
Yeah. We're making a difference. That's
making
what
a
it is. We're
difference.
impacting the community.
Absolutely.
And we're also getting them civically engaged.
Yes.
You know,
So-
because that's important, right, for public housing residents, because people do think we don't vote. But we all need to have a voter registration table out in front of our developments, which I plan to do weekly.
All right, man.
Yeah.
And for you guys, just on the side, on the last note, I guess, essential workers, okay, about voting, because there's a large amount of people that think, oh, your vote doesn't matter, right?
does.
My vote doesn't matter. Here's common sense, y'all, okay? You ready? No one ever stole anything from somebody that didn't have value.
Right.
You don't steal things that don't have value.
Absolutely.
Right?
Reverend Rock.
Right? This legislature that they're trying to suppress your
Absolutely.
vote.
That's
So
right.
apparently it's valuable.
40 states.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Come on,
Exactly.
stop. Use common sense.
Right.
No one still takes anything from you that's
Yeah.
not valuable.
Absolutely.
Your vote is valuable. Get out there and vote.
Yeah.
There's a block. You want to change things, you got to vote.
That's right.
You know,
Joe
so-
Biden, you better step up a little bit more. That's what I can tell you, Joe
Yeah.
Biden. You better step up.
Yeah.
All right?
Thanks for
and
tuning
fight that
in.
voter rights stuff now.
I'll hit
Joe
you
Biden.
next week, 4
Yeah.
o'clock, same
We'll be
time,
back.
same
We
bat
lifting
channel.
off. One night to one people.
One night, you one people. I'll see y'all.
Great show, team.
Yes.